The virtual Speedway Indiana is the host of more racing action as the month of May comes to November and the iRacing.com service. Welcome to final hour coverage of day one of the OpenWheels.com 500-mile qualifying presented by Pit Lane Parlay. Glad you can join us here live on RaceSpotTV as we look to hand out the Pit Lane Parlay Pole Position Award today with a unique qualifications format evoking memories of days passed at the Speedway. My name is Arjuna Kankipadi. I'm excited to be joined by a few members of the iRacing IndyCar community for today's coverage. Just one more hour till we know our likely pole sitter for next week's Open Wheels 500 presented by Mitchell Transmissions, as while we do mix the times across both days to set our top 33 drivers that qualify using times set on day one will start in front of those that set their times on day number 2. And so as things stand, our current provisional pole position sitter is last year's race winner, Michele Constantini, and I'm delighted to now be joined by Michele himself, who's meant to join us during Thursday night's qualifying coverage. But Michele, back for a second year, back to defend your title, and the Open Wheels 500 is back and bigger than ever before, and one of the most stacked entry lists we've seen. You must be pretty excited about being at the top of the time charts as things stand right now.
Yeah, I'm quite happy about the run earlier. I think there was definitely still some time in it, but yeah, I'm happy to be up top and ready to defend the race win on next Sunday.
And let's quickly talk about some of the emotions about this race, Michele, because you won the race under caution last year, but I'm sure that caution flag flying must have been a relief. It was a fuel-save race and strategy playing such a crucial part. Just talk to us about the emotions as the checkered flag flew and then as you eventually came across the start-finish line.
Well, the yellow was definitely a nice thing to see with 5 to go because that meant the race was over. So that the first reaction was obviously a relief, as you said. But you kind of want to win a race under green as well at the same time, because even if the race went green to the end, I still had the fuel to make it. So it's always better to win a race under green. But in terms of that, I don't really care. I won the race, and that's what matters in the end, which is nice.
And it looks like the rest of your teammates also up for the challenge of coming back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to win another 500-mile race. Let's bring in some of the rest of our commentary partners as we're watching AJ Burton as he makes his qualifying run here in the last 50 minutes. A brand new session has just gone up, so that's why you see the number 1, despite the fact that Burton isn't actually at the top of the timings. As he finishes his run, he's going to slot himself into 18th position right behind Matt Hollibaugh. So let's talk to Jason Brophy, because Jason, you were involved in a very dramatic finish at this year's official Indy 500. You were in that finish alongside the one and only Tanner Watkins. I talked to Tanner about that finish just a few nights ago. Talk to us about the emotions of putting everything on the line as you come towards the finish line, knowing there's just a few corners left between you and winning an Indianapolis 500.
I'll be honest, when I got there, I felt kind of lucky to be in that position in the first place. I had some left side pod damage from the earlier Doyle and Quinn incident in that one. So, it was going to be, got caught off guard in the restart, send it as hard as he could, and I don't think I could have gotten to Treno anyway on the straight line, being down straight line speed. So, got to have an eventful finish. It's one of those, you find yourself suddenly a one-lap shootout in third. Maybe there's a chance, though. Never know if the top two are going to wreck.
Well, and talking of wrecks, let's bring in one more person who's joining me for commentary today. Lewis Woodall just rolling off of pit lane for his qualifying run. But Dakota DiCienzo, involved in the caution that helped Michele Constantini win that race. Not in the later caution, he was involved in the other caution that flew around lap 100. Dakota, you're back trying to qualify for the Open Wheels 500 once again. You had a good run at trying to qualify for top split Indy 500 this past month of May. Talk to us about the pressure of coming here to the Open Wheels 500 when you only get 3 qualifying runs, and if you go back out on track after setting a qualifying run, that previous time gets deleted. So talk to us about the emotions of sitting in the car waiting to roll off pit lane as Lewis Woodall now gets up to speed on his warm-up lap.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, of course. especially with only having the 3 runs. It is like real life where you don't know what's going to happen. If you make that small mistake, you basically just canceled out a whole run and possibly another run. Yeah, there's just a lot of pressure to it.
So there's lots of pressure, and Lewis Woodall out for a run now, not in the 33 drivers that are going to make it to the field. The bump driver has just changed, by the way, with AJ Burton's run. It used to be Christopher Stouffer with a 39.061 that was your bump driver. Now Brian Barney with a 39.057 takes over that bubble spot as Woodall completes his first time laps. This is still his warm-up lap, so he's going to get up to speed and start setting some of his faster lap times. Let's now bring in Adam Blocker into the commentary booth, because Adam Blocker is a real-life IndyCar engineer, and he's having to deal with the challenges of getting the Dallara IR18 set up for a qualifications run here. And with a little bit of extra power this year, Adam, due to some increased boost to the engine, we're seeing some record speeds. We got a lot more wear being placed on the tires. Talk to us about the challenges of keeping that car alive for 4 laps and making sure that your pace doesn't dramatically fall off on that final lap of the qualifying run.
Yeah, obviously for this year they added the aero screen in real life and in iRacing. That added like 150 pounds or so to the car, which is quite substantial. Yeah, and extra like 70 horsepower or so with the different boost level. So yeah, it makes it quite different, quite difficult to keep the tires under you. As you can see, like there's not only just setup differences between teams, but also within each team. You see large differences in time just because small mistakes, even on lap 2 or 3, just scrubbing the tires a little bit more, even if it doesn't cost you that much time on those laps, can cost you a ton of time on lap 4 just from the extra heat and the extra wear. Actually, like on a lot of setups, if you scrub too much on lap 2 and 3, you might not even be able to make lap 4 with the extra tire wear. So yeah, it's really tricky.
So Lewis Woodall into the wall on his qualifying run. Lap number 2, about a tenth and a bit off his lap number 1. Not what you typically want to see in qualifying, so that's going to be the end of his qualifying run. Back to the pits for Lewis Woodall. Got a number of drivers in this session ready for one additional qualifying attempt to end off the day. We've had 11 and a half hours of qualifying before we've got to this point. Qualifying runs began at 6 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to conclude at 6 p.m. Eastern, so 12 full hours of qualifying as Matt Pavelski gets up to racing speed. And Matt Pavelski, part of the i5G team, let's talk to you about him, Michele. Into this competition now, he's going out for one of his first runs of the day, or rather, this is going to be one of his second runs of the day. But doing a lap and doing a run this late in the day, you know that you want to get in a good run because, like we were talking about, times from day 1 get placed in front of times from day 2. But I'm sure late on in the day, there's also a little bit of trepidation about going out there because if you make a mistake, that's one of your runs gone. And I'm sure that some of these teams, we talk about someone like a Young O who rolled off 6th in this morning's qualifying, didn't put in a good run. We haven't seen from him all day, and I'm assuming that the previous iRacing Indy 500 pole sitter is back, working on his car and gearing up for some more runs tomorrow instead.
Yeah, well, it's obviously not ideal to go this late in the day, but this first run Matt made a mistake on lap 4, I think, so I'm pretty sure he can easily improve his first run, so that's the reason he's out on track right now. And yeah, about Young, I don't really know whether I should expect him to run this session even or not. I don't really know what's going on right now, because he definitely has the speed to challenge for pole for sure. Yeah, I don't know what to expect, to be honest.
Well, I was expecting, as I said, very boldly yesterday on the Today Before the 500 show live with Tanner, I expected Young to go out there 6th on the qualifying grid and go out there and put in a record-breaking lap time. Hasn't yet been done, and he'll be back probably tomorrow based on the list of cars in the session waiting to get back out there and finish one more run. Pavelski finishes his warm-up lap, and a previous winner of the iRacing Indy 500. Last year qualified for this race in 28th, finished it in 21st. He'll be looking to go a little bit better, maybe try and fight for a top 5 or a top 10 finish He's going to come across the line to finish his first time lap. Where is this going to put him on the board? A 38.949, so that's a pretty good lap number one, but let's bring in Adam Crane for the first time today, who won the IndyCar iRacing Series. That's a pretty good lap number one, Adam, but you don't want to see the lap time now fall off on your next 3 laps.
Definitely not, especially since, well, I mean, I'm okay with it falling off a little bit, especially since Matt's directly behind me in the time charts, but for sure, that second lap is the most important because it's going to be the lap that's the fastest of any of the 4 that you're able to set, so you definitely want to have that second lap be a tone setter for the other 2 that follow, and certainly that first lap definitely flows into that second lap too.
Lap number 2, we wait for the graphic to update. All of our graphics being powered directly from Race Control for this one, so 38.884. The average now stands at 38.917. So
I'm sweating.
you should be sweating, but 2 more good laps here could stand between Pavelski and potentially a top 5 start. It's going to be that lap 4. That's going to be oh so crucial as he dives down through turn number 4 to start that final lap in the qualifying run. Michele, looking pretty good right now for your teammate.
Yeah, he's doing good. Let's see what this lap 3 is. It's a 9:30. That's I believe it's still, yeah, it's still better than his previous run. So all 3 of his laps currently are better than his previous. So let's see what he can do here. I believe top 10 for sure if he keeps it going on this 4th lap as well, and if he doesn't make another mistake here. But he's looking pretty solid right now.
So let's ride on board with the number 75, holding 5th gear apparently, which I find quite interesting through the short chute, getting a bit loose through the middle of that, and a little bit more of a snap now as he comes through turn number 4, and he's going to lose the rear end of the car. So that run is done and dusted for Pavelski, and he's now going to have to use that 3rd run to get back into the 33 locked cars. That is not what Pavelski would have wanted there. So Pavelski resets back to pit lane. A run that was looking so strong, so promising, has now resulted in his previous time being deleted from the board, and Pavelski will have to re-queue and go again.
Stouffer back up into P33 as well.
And you're very well pointed out there, Adam. Adam Crane, for those wondering, drives for Satellite Racing. Recently announced a partnership with the virtual racing school. Christopher Stouffer for Powerslide Motorsports now retakes that bubble spot with a 39.061. Stouffer is dealing with some wheel issues which are complicating his attempt to try and qualify for the race. You also see RaceSpot's own Randy Cheneth currently in 34th right outside, and he'll be looking to get out there and do another run in just a few moments' time. Dakota, I'm going to ask you a question here because you had a very similar incident during the open wheels race itself. That's something that not just in qualifying can happen, but the car is so sensitive coming out of each of these corners, and each end of the racetrack is so different for those who aren't familiar with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and qualifying here. It can be very tricky to keep the car stable, and Matt Pavelski just losing the car very early going into 3, I think.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, I think the question is, it's a very tough thing to balance the car here. You're driving at record speeds. You're on the edge of grip, both mechanically and aerodynamically, and it's so easy to lose the car and have an incident like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With the speeds we're hitting, it's really, really easy just to make a small mistake and ruin your race, like I did last year. I overreacted, overcorrected into a wall. Luckily, no one else, but a small mistake with a big crash, I guess.
Small mistakes have big consequences indeed. Next driver rolling off. Now on the warm-up lane as he tries to build up speed, Cesar Manzato, the number 99 for North Sim Racing. Someone that Adam Crane will be familiar with, having had some fun battles in the IndyCar iRacing series, but this is a very different proposition between that type of a competition versus somewhere like this. The IndyCar iRacing series, more of a series where we've seen a lot more of the all-rounders being able to have a good performance, Adam, but this time, you know, we're at the Brickyard. It's where we see the likes of Young O, who are specialists at coming to Indy and putting in those good qualifying laps, really start to show up. So for someone like Manzato, a good opportunity perhaps to qualify onto the grid and show that he's more than just an all-round kind of driver. So Manzato on his warm-up lap, building up the speed. Something new for the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is a regulation that the warm-up lap can take no longer than 60 seconds. And that's to prevent some of our competitors from trying to gain a competitive advantage from taking that warm-up lap as slowly as they can and trying to preserve the tires and the life of the tires. So that on lap number 4, that fall-off doesn't affect the car as much as it does some of the other drivers, and that's something unique about the Open Wheels 500 qualifying format as compared to the official iRacing Indy 500. The other thing that's a unique thing is that drivers can indeed touch the wall if they're pushing that limit and getting all the way up to the walls around the track. They can touch the wall. They may lose a little bit of speed. The lap times still will count and will be added as an official qualification run. Manzato now on lap number 1 as he works to build up the speed. It's coming out of turn number 4. What's the lap time going to be for Manzato on his first flying lap in the run? Across the yard of bricks he goes, and it's a 39.199. So not the fastest first lap, and indeed that first lap not really setting himself up for any chance of success. Adam Blocker, I'm going to ask you a question. We talk about you being a resident engineer. You might be able to answer some nice questions for us. How do you try and balance each of these laps' pace? We talk about trying to preserve the tires for lap number 4, but obviously you're building up the speed between laps 1 and 3 before you have that fall-off come out. So in the way that you were trying to build your qualifying setup, we're obviously not trying to learn too much about the setups themselves, but what were some of the things that you were thinking about in terms of factors for your tire life?
I mean, there's quite a few factors. One of them, as simple as how hard and how quickly you go, like start accelerating on the warm-up lap. So, I mean, you notice some guys, like I think I accelerated in the short shoot between 1 and 2. You see some guys accelerating in the middle of 2, some guys accelerating in the exit of 2. And you can see, there's quite a spread in first lap times. Like I think my first lap time is one of the better ones, but then I have a little bit more fall off on lap 4, but that's just what ended up being better for my driving style and my setup. While like Team Talent sort of did the opposite thing. But there's that, and then I think the rest of it's just driving. Like honestly, the better your laps 1 and 2 are, the smoother you are, the better lines you take, the more road you use. You have less tire wear and less scrubbing, so it's kind of a win-win situation where you go faster on those laps, and then as long as you're smooth, you preserve the tires better as well. So, but one key thing to mention is that your turn-in points and your lines actually change from lap to lap. So laps 1 and 2, you have a lot more grip, so you can afford to turn in later, maybe take a different line. While lap 4, the car is just has a lot less grip, so you have to turn in earlier and anticipate what it's going to do, whether it's going to understeer or oversteer, or what. You have to have experience with the car and what it's doing, or what it's done before.
So Manzato crosses the line, average a 39.254. So that's going to slot him into 40th place. Actually slower than one of his previous runs. As I'm looking on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see Manzato currently slots in 39th place. But once that result gets updated, he'll still be in 39th. No, he will be in 40th position because Michael Hagstrom is going to move in front of Cesar Manzato after that run. So Manzato finishes another run. And it looks like Matt Pavelski is getting geared up to go out for another one of his qualifying runs here. Jason, let's talk to you. Third of his qualifying runs, and he's going to use it on day number 1 here with just 30 minutes left in pole day qualifications.
Yeah, I think if you have to try and get in, as long as he isn't on tilt from wrecking, that you may as well use it on day 1. He's going to have to make another attempt. The pressure is going to be there regardless of today or tomorrow. Clearly, they have a fast set. It's just a matter of reining himself in enough to, put down a lap to get himself in the field. So, but I think first it's actually going to be Randy here going.
Does look like that. RaceSpot's own Randy Cheneth about to roll off in the number 50 machine. So there he goes, going to start building up the speed. Exits pit lane right now to begin his second qualification run of the day. Delighted to now bring in another member of the iRacing IndyCar community to today's broadcast, being joined by AJ Burton, who just finished one of his qualifications run. AJ, talk to us about the run that you were just on and how it went for you.
Thanks for having me, Arjuna. That was intense. That was my second run of the day, and The first one went pretty badly. I lost it off of turn 4, very similar to how Matt just had his incident. So felt like the pressure was on for me, but I got a good spot in the draw. I got the first run of this session, and I kind of took it easy. I just wanted to get myself in the field, to be honest. So I was a little bit conservative. I made the car a little bit tighter to try and stop that snap, and fortunately it worked and it got me in the field, for now at least.
Well, 38.980 might be good. I'm trying to just look at the rest of the times. We've got a lot of big names as well who haven't even set qualification times just yet. The likes of Young O, of course, who went out 6th this morning, had to wave off his qualifying run. Car apparently not looking too good. I missed that qualification run, but maybe one of you guys can update me. I've been hearing that the Snake Pit car maybe not handling the most ideal around the track for the track conditions that we have right now.
I don't know, I missed it too, so...
Yeah, I don't know how many people were there for that one. It was quite early.
Yeah, they are going right away. It seems like most of the Snake Pit cars are just going hard out of the pits and straight up on track. And that car looked devilish on the 3rd lap. Carried okay speed for the first 2. I mean, pretty good, but then the 3rd lap and on, it started just out of control. Then he ended up losing it. As I recall, it was out of turn 2. So it's been a while since that one, so...
4.
Yeah. Oh, was it out of 4?
I think he pancaked the wall in 4, yeah.
So, but yeah, it was rough. Somebody like Yang, you know, if he's struggling, or Young, if he's struggling with it, it's a handful.
Yeah, if you look at the warm-up times, Yang O's warm-up time was a 39.5, and most people are at least 41 seconds, if not like 43 or 44. And the same for his teammates, Joe Branch and Tim Doyle are similarly quick on their warm-up, or were.
It's interesting how much time we actually spent trying to figure out all the different options for the outlap and the warm-up lap, thinking about gear selection, shift points, what line you're taking through 1-2, especially whether you're hitting the grass on a pit exit. All those sorts of things really definitely took some time to try to figure out what might be optimum, and even then there's some disagreement within the paddock about what works and what doesn't.
And I'm sure lots of work being put in since the month of May, where obviously that was the first race being run with the extra qualifying boost, the addition of the aero screen, a lot of work being put in by teams at the last minute as they scrambled through the week of qualifications that is the iRacing Indy 500. We're watching Randy Cheneth as he completes lap number 3, waiting for race control to enter that lap time on lap 2. Currently looking fairly good, I think. The averages in the 38.96 range, which might put him in with a chance of making it into the field there. You'll see lap number 2 has just come in, 38.951, as we now await lap number 3. That's a 39.032, so pace is starting to drop off, and lap number 4 going to be crucial for Randy Cheneth as he works. Average right now at 38.987. Where does that put him? Well, tentatively, that will put him in 21st place, right around where Powerslide Motorsports' Henry Bennett currently runs. Down into 3 and 4 then for Randy Cheneth for the last time. And the one thing that I always love watching about some of these Team Talent cars is you can't really see it from this camera angle, but if I find a slightly better one, as Randy's going to cross the yard of bricks and finish his qualifying run, if I just try and find the right one, there you can see, watch the right-hand corner of your screen, the Tanner face, peeking its face in from the from the mirror. Always a delightful sight on these Team Talent machines, and I'm sure Randy got a little bit of a helping hand from the Tanner face as he made this qualification run. 39.019 then for Randy Cheneth. That will put him into 27th place as things stand. I'm still unsure if that's going to be a time that's good enough to get him through into the main race itself, but at the very least, he's gone out there and improved on the time that he had before. And ultimately, guys, I'm going to ask this one to Dakota. Ultimately, the only thing you really want to do if you go out there for a second qualifying run is improve on the time that you had before. So at least Randy has managed to tick that box off.
Yeah, that's definitely a big help for him. He was, I think, a 10th off the leader or something like that. Or I think at least our fastest guy. So that is really helpful for him because he still has a chance now. With this time he set, if the times are slow. And yeah, it's Yeah.
Well, we've got another member of the iRacing IndyCar community joining us as now Niall McBride is going to head off of pit lane. He's going to make another qualifying attempt. We've got Christopher Demerit joining us here in the iRacing commentary booth. Currently sits third place in the qualifications. And Chris, let's ask you about that run. How much more time do you think there is in there? Do you think you can go out there and beat your teammates' track record of a 38.895, or are you going to be pretty happy starting on the front row of the grid as things stand?
Nah, it's pretty much all I got in me. I was doing some practice laps this morning, and I was, doing averages, within a few thousands of each other, and that was another run that was within a few thousands of those. So it's pretty much all I got in me. Michele's just that much faster.
Well, Michele, clearly faster, but let's ask both of you, Demerit and AJ and Michele, all three of you. Let's ask you about Zach Campbell and also you, Michele, because you guys have been trying to qualify for the Porsche Esports Super Cup. We had the qualifying series coverage of that on RaceSpotTV earlier this morning, the third of 5 super sessions, live from Sebring International Raceway. Michele, you didn't unfortunately make it into the super session. However, Zach made it for a third consecutive time. Unfortunately, though, after taking home the race win in the first round from Okayama, it's been 2 consecutive races where he's been caught up in incidents that he hasn't really had much to do with. And unfortunately, Zach isn't going to be qualifying for this year's Open Wheel 500. But it's good to see someone like that trying to now make the step over into a sim racing competition as tough and as competitive as the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to see, obviously. Unfortunately, this week didn't go that well for us. Even Peter, our teammate, got involved in an incident he had no blame for, so it's not been a great weekend for us. The only positive point I would say is the rallycross guys finished 1, 2, and 4 in the Sonoma race today, so that's a good thing. But yeah, other than that, it's been a weekend to forget, apart from the open wheels qualifying as well. So that was another good positive thing about this weekend. But it's personally, I don't really like. It's not a car that fits me well. Let's put it that way. The Porsche Cup. So I'm kind of waiting and hoping for iRacing to bring on another new World Championship or something like that, something new. In terms of the roadside, obviously, and that would be a good thing to see. But yeah, Zach is doing pretty well in the Porsche Cup there, so that's a good thing for him, and I hope he can qualify for PESC next year.
Well, speaking of a new World Championship series, maybe an IndyCar Drivers World Championship might be a fun thing to do. I know a few of you guys also in the TeamSpeak chat are now thinking about that. But Niall McBride, lap number 1 and 2 done. The first lap was a 9.57. We're waiting for race control to update lap number 2, but I can confirm a 9.31 for Niall McBride. So the average is looking pretty good right now. Let's ask you, AJ, something. Michele, clearly not the biggest fan of the Porsche Cup car, but it's interesting to see someone like Zach who's making that transition from an open wheel car to a GT tin top, especially one like the Porsche 911 Cup car, which isn't like a GT3 car. No driver assist, so no ABS, no traction control. And on the iRacing service, it's known for being a bit of a handful.
Well, Zach in particular is just an incredible driver, and I think he could adapt to pretty much any car on the service. As you can see, he's quick in the IndyCar, he's been quick in Porsche, he's quick in NASCAR. I just think he can get in anything and drive it incredibly, so I think he'll make it. He's a great driver.
Well, the young 18-year-old trying to qualify for his first World Championship competition. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of the IndyCar community on the grid and trying to represent as Niall McBride comes out of turn number 4. We're riding on board with him as he finishes. I think this is going to be the final lap of his run, so currently looking good with a 38.961 on the average. What is lap number 4? 39.095. So the average going to be a 38.995, and that's going to put him into 22nd position. He's going to leapfrog Tim Doyle. He'll be behind 21st place Henry Bennett. So we're starting to get down to the last few runs on pole day qualifications. McBride just pulling off the track then to finish his qualifying run. And with 20 minutes left to go, probably looking at about 4 or 5 runs, I would say, depending on how many cars want to go up. It's looking like Matt Pavelski will be one of those cars that we're waiting to go and see. And we'll see if Pavelski's able to actually set a lap time this time around. Well, we're now joined, we've got more and more community members here. I'm losing track of all the iRacing IndyCar community members joining us, but we're now being joined by RaceSpot's own Randy Cheneth. Randy, talk to us about that run. We just rode on board with you as you moved up into 28th place. You've gone from the commentary booth to the track. Last year, part of the broadcast team, this time trying to qualify your way into the race. I'm sure a lot of different pressure you're feeling as a driver this time around.
Oh yeah, there was a lot more anxiety, I think, in that qualifying run. Even compared to last year, when I woke up and we needed the broadcast to start within about 6 minutes, there was a bit of anxiety there. But that was an intense run. That was, I think, the first run I've managed where I haven't hit the bump in turn 2 every single lap. So that definitely felt nice.
Good job, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a little bit. Also good to see Niall, one of my teammates, going in and immediately going a bit quicker. So all of us, I think, pretty much. Are any of us on the outside at the moment, Dakota, or are we all in?
I think I'm the slowest. No, you're the slowest.
No.
So
Austin.
yeah, no, we're good. Austin, but
It's a battle. It's a battle between myself and Dakota to decipher who's slow and who's slower.
Yeah, in our Discord we have names. I'm slow. He's slower. So.
For the time being, Espedy should be slowest.
That's true.
So Randy, not such a terrible run there, but quickly I'll ask you a few more questions. What's the day been like for you? It must have been a very different day. Rather than waking up to do any type of broadcasting, you wake up with the sole focus here on 12 hours of qualifying. We're now 20 minutes away from the end of day number 1. Just talk to us about the Open Wheels 500, because it's an event that's trying to evoke a lot of the emotions behind the Indianapolis 500 and all its traditions and history. And, you know, these 4-lap qualifying runs that you only get 3 of are one of the most unique things, because unlike in the iRacing Indy 500, where if you're like myself and incapable of taking the car off pit road in a clean and easy fashion, you go from having an A-class license at the start of the week to a B-class license by the end of the week. But this time, only 3 runs, and for someone like Pavelski, who's out there on his final attempt right now, all the pressure is on as he tries to get into the field today.
The other thing as well as Pavelski is he is sort of the opposite end of the bump day story, isn't it? Because, you know, you got people like me, Niall, you know, all these, you know, there's a handful of us down here on the outside of the top 33 in turns on speed. Matt Pavelski was up in the top 10, and when he wiped his time and on that second attempt was trying to really make a pole run. That's what he was trying to do there. So this being his 3rd run, this is all or nothing, and this is one of the things that really makes this qualifying format fun, as he's going to come across for his first lap here, and it's going to be a 38.947, decent opening lap for him, but it's going to be, I think the 4th lap is going to be what really matters to Matt, as that's where he's been having trouble. He made that mistake in his first run, even though that put him up in the top 10, top 15. I can't remember where exactly he was when he made that second attempt. And then, of course, when he had the big drama on lap 3 on lap 4. But Pavelski really is going to be the first one here, taking the 3rd of his 3.
It's a final qualification attempt then for a prior winner of an iRacing Indy 500. All the pressure on as Matt Pavelski tries to work his way into the 33 cars that will make it to next week. Open Wheels 500 miles race presented by Mitchell Transmissions. Down into turn 1 as we ride on board with the number 75. Last lap time, a 38.892, so it's looking good, but the last run was looking pretty good too in terms of lap time. It was just coming out of turn 4 on the very last lap that proves to be the disastrous point of the qualifying run. Pavelski into turn 3 then. Michele, talk us through this kind of a qualifying lap, because it's ultimately all about being very, very smooth on your inputs, about finding the right turn-in point, about turning in at the right point and the right amount, but ultimately you don't want to heat up the tires at all, because that really is going to cost you in the later laps of the run.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's why we're taking a slow outlap, just to not put any pressure, any heat on the tires. So yeah, it's very important to be smooth, very important to be nice and safe. And it's also very different to the iRacing 500 qualifying as it comes to 3 and 4 here. It's very different because you only get 3 shots here, while in the iRacing 500 you have basically unlimited shots. And yeah, this time Matt is good, I think. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, safely off of turn 4 this time around for the 75. Current average, a 9.23. So what's lap number 4 going to be? A 39.021. We wait for the average to update.
Or 7.
So
948.
Yeah, 948.
So that's going to put him then into 7th place. Pavelski does manage to put himself into a strong qualifying position, splitting the 2 power slide drivers of Hugo Olsen and Adam Blocker. Adam, I'll ask you a question here. You were talking about potentially being safe with that run. What do you think the cutoff is going to be for the top 33 drivers come the end of the day tomorrow?
Honestly, it's been hard to predict because like it's such a weird format that it's so risky every time. But I'm thinking somewhere like around 9.9 or 9.8 now for the lap average. So I'm thinking that, like, for example, Andrew Kinsella and Henry Bennett are probably safe, but maybe like Randy is not.
So 16 minutes left on the clock on the top left-hand side of your screen. However, just being reminded by the one and only Tanner, thank you for that reminder. Qualifying does end with 10 minutes left in the hour, so 6 minutes left for qualifying runs to be attempted, and that means probably just one more run left for today. I'm trying to see if there's anyone still left in the queue or if we're done for qualifying attempts today, but you can see the top left side of your screen, the top 33 as things stand. New bubble driver, John Downing, with a 39.050. So I'm just trying to read in this race control chat right now. Any of you guys able to update me if we have one more run left in today, or if we're looking like that might be done for today?
Matt was the last one I know in line, because he basically... I don't think the car was spinning before he asked for his third attempt. Yeah, they're going to be... I think that's pretty much going to do it for today. I don't think there's anyone else interested in, and I think those of us that are in the field are like, nah, we'll go ahead and not wipe our time. We're fine where we're at.
Well, the one person that we were thinking might decide to make a bonsai last attempt might have been Wilson Neto, who did actually jump into this last qualifying session despite currently sitting second in the standings. Clearly wants to take that pole position away from Michele Costantini, who is joining us in the commentary booth. Michele, I'm going to ask you a question. How much more time do you think you could have found on that one run? Obviously, a qualifying run has so many different factors that can influence the time, but what do you think really could be the maximum performance that you guys can find out of your Dallara IR18?
I think 0.88 is reasonable. Mid to high 88, 38.88. So probably about 100. 100 is enough if on a very perfect run.
And I was going to say, that's a pretty good margin of error then. If an 8.8 is your perfect qualifying run, which you'd set maybe in the official iRacing Indy 500 with the infinite attempts that you get there, to go out there and set that lap time in your first few runs must be a very relaxing feeling now. As provisional pole position sitter, you're looking like you're going to start from the front for the Open Wheels 500 as things stand, leading the field on the 3-wide start. You must be feeling pretty relaxed about your situation as things stand.
Yeah, it's looking good for now, but I don't trust Young. Until the last second of this session, I'm not celebrating or anything, because I don't forget May. Last few sessions, he showed up and put in the slap there.
And I'll ask one of you guys, Jason, let's ask you about this difference between the month of May and the Open Wheels 500 and qualifying here. Getting to the day now of day one, we're just 3.5 minutes away from time being called on qualifying for pole day, but talk to us about how you felt about this entire day, because this entire event is something that us at RaceSpotTV are very, very excited about. We're delighted it's back for a second year of competition, and I think all of the competitors share that sentiment as well. This is something that the community really, really banded around and really wanted to see grow into a successful event. And I think we have to thank and really just say thank you to Tanner Watkins for all of his hard work in putting this on, because once again, it's great to see this event back with all the organization and all the pressure that it puts on the drivers.
I agree, yeah. Last year I couldn't make this event. I was out of town for the qualifying period, but just watching it, it was a spectacular... Like, Tanner does an excellent job, and RaceSpot broadcasting, it is absolutely amazing, and I'm proud to be a part of it this year. From a pressure standpoint, thankfully, I got one good run in early in the day, and I felt pretty comfortable. I could sit back and relax and watch and kind of enjoy some of the runs as people went around. So I think the format is amazing versus May when you're buckling in. If you mess up on your first one Monday, I've got 50 more tries. This one, you mess up that first one, suddenly there's a lot of nerves because now you've only got 2 more, and you mess up that one, there's only 1 more, and so you got to make sure you're chasing the right number, not trying to take a huge gamble early on. So.
I'm just getting word, by the way, by Tanner himself that no one left in the queue. It's looking like that would have been our final run of the day. 90 qualification attempts put in throughout 12 hours of qualifying. Some stats for you then. The top 37 times, so everyone down to Glyn Rockenfeller Jr., all of those times are faster than our previous pole position that we started the day with. Youngo's 229.925 in terms of mile per hour speed was our original track record. New records have been broken though. The 1-lap record belongs to Wilson Neto with a 231.678. The 4-lap record belongs to Michele Costantini with a 231.392. So a minute and a half left in qualifying then before we wrap up pole day qualifications and officially award our Pit Lane Parlay Pole Position Award. We are going to be joined by a whole slew of various members of the iRacing IndyCar community. We got the likes of Brendan Lichtenberg as well, who was waiting, has just come up into the booth. But I'm going to start.
This is my show. I'm dragging him.
Yep, that's why I wondered where everything was coming. Glad to have Randy, RaceSpot's own Randy Cheneth, joining me in the booth as well. But let's start with Matt Pavelski. Matt, you were under a whole host of pressure. You binned it on your second qualifying run, trying to get the pole position. That third qualifying run must have been very, very cathartic as you came across the line, and just a big sigh of relief as you've effectively locked yourself into the field of 33 cars.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through turn 4 on that last lap, and like you saw how it went the first time. Try to set up a little bit less crossweight, and it worked. So I'm going through turn 4 and realized I couldn't breathe. So, that's kind of how that goes. But that definitely takes a huge load off your shoulders, especially after kind of, binning it in a run I didn't have to take 10 minutes prior, 20 minutes prior.
And talk to us about that decision and why you decided to go out. Was it just trying to get that pole position run on the board, or were you maybe a little bit concerned about the time? I don't think you should have been concerned.
No, I mean, I wasn't concerned, but earlier in the day during the Group 2 session, I'd had a pretty good run going for the first 3 laps, and then going through turn 4, it stepped out on me, and I had to lift out of the throttle. And I looked at the times that Brendan and Chris were putting up, and I figured I probably couldn't get near Chris. But Brendan was certainly in reach because that was the trajectory I was on those first 3 laps. And kind of figured I should just go for it. And lo and behold, I did the exact same thing on the second lap. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting to put it on pole. That would have been nice. But I knew I should have been faster than 14th, which is where I was.
So pole day is now over. Time has expired in qualifying. We officially have our day 1 qualifying results. Before we run down and say goodbye to you, let's talk to a few more of the iRacing IndyCar community. Now let's talk to Brendan Lichtenberg, currently provisionally qualified into 5th position with a 38.941. Brendan, must have been a good run for you, and now you look forward to race day and probably not thinking about any qualifying runs tomorrow. Instead, maybe starting to work on the race set and the race strategies as you think about the 500 miles of racing that lie ahead.
Yeah, I cannot envision a scenario where I have to run again tomorrow, so that's great. He's always kind of a bit of a struggle for me, especially in particular lap 4. And when I did my run today, I thought, wow, I know I can go faster. Lap 4 is an 007, but that you can see the timing sheet. There's really no reason to be upset today when you see all my teammates around me too. So looking forward to the race for sure, logging a lot of laps, and I don't like qualifying. That's just me, though. The pressure of it, maybe. I can deal with the pressure, but that's what this is. You only got 3 attempts, and Matt was ice cold for sure.
So now let's move on. That was Brendan Lichtenberg, currently provisionally qualified in 5th place. Let's talk to Jesper Orman for 3 Crowns Racing. And Jesper, you're currently provisionally qualified up into 12th position. A major step up from the Swedish outings last year in the Open Wheels 500. You've also got the fellow Swede Hugo Olsen, who does run with Powerslide Motorsports. But it's good to see some of your fellow countrymen having some good runs here. And talk to us about your preparations for this big event.
F,
as apparently Jesper is unfortunately not able to hear us. Let's move on then, because we've got a whole host of drivers here to continue talking to. Niall McBride has joined in with us as well. We saw one of his qualifications run, one of the last runs of the day. Niall, talk to us about that last qualifying run that you had. Currently sitting in 23rd place. What do you think about tomorrow? You're going to be back out tomorrow morning ready to go again, or are you feeling semi-confident about making it into the field from there?
Thank you very much. Man, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. I'm 12th on the grid.
As Jesper seems to have a very delayed internet connection there. Now, I'm going to let you finish answering the question, though, very quickly, as Jesper continues going off by himself, unfortunately. Talk to us about that qualification run and your plans now for the day ahead tomorrow.
Well, certainly it was a relief to get that second one better than the last one. I think the first one was a bit tentative. I wasn't too sure if that would have been enough to make the field, so I went again and held it together, did exactly how I did in practice, and hopefully it'll be enough to make the field. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but it was pretty nerve-wracking all day.
And I'm going to finish it off by talking to Randy Chenoth, RaceSpot's own. Talk to us, Randy, about the emotions today. And you're now sitting in 29th place, probably not entirely safe if we're being honest just yet. So one more run in your pocket now. Talk to us about Bump Day and the pressure of wanting to be one of those 33 cars that are ready to line up on the grid next Sunday.
Well, it's definitely nice to know that I'm going into tomorrow at least safe. You know, if everyone messes up and hits the wall, then there's a good chance I can make the field. We've been seeing that, especially today. A lot of people that people thought were going to be fast, especially, we've seen it from the Snake Pit guys and some other teams as well. Some people are really hanging on those fourth laps, and there's a lot of fast names left, but I think a good chunk, I think 75% or more of those fast guys won't get very good runs in. I think they'll struggle, in all honesty, with the pressure. And yeah, some of those guys have 3-lap runs, but I'll probably have to go out and hopefully we'll make the field. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting day 2 of qualifications for sure.
It's going to be a very interesting day indeed. So let's wrap up then by going through our provisional qualification standings as we get ready to hand out the Pit Lane Parley Pole Position Award to Michele Constantini. A 38.895, a new 4-lap track record, grabs the Apex Racing Team and i5G driver that Pit Lane Parley Pole Position Award, and he'll be starting on row number 1. Also starting on row number 1, Wilson Neto for a second consecutive year, and on the outside it'll be Christopher Demerit. Row number 2, Christian Challoner, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola driver, recently joined the iRacing staff with a 38.940. He'll start on the inside of row 2 with Brendan Lichtenberg and Hugo Olsen alongside him. Row number 3, Matt Pavelski, Adam Blocker, and Joshua Chin. A row filled with prior Indy 500 winners. Then you go back to the next row, Jason Brophy, Liam Quinn, Jesper Orman. We keep going through Chad Simpson, Adam Crane, Andrew Wood. Some very strong rows here as you work throughout the field. Marco Brazil, Matt Hollabo, AJ Burden. Another row, Andreas Eek, Andrew Kinsella, Chris Cahill back in 21st place. Henry Bennett, Niall McBride, and Tim Doyle, 22nd through 24th. Simon Bryant, Rob Powers, Dakota DiCienzo, 25th through 27th. Final few provisional rows, Oliver Silva, Randolph Chenoth, and Austin Espety. Final row, Dylan Freckleton, Joe Branch, and John Downing currently sits in that bubble spot with a 39.050. Let's take a look at the rest of the broadcast schedule here on RaceSpotTV for the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Join us again tomorrow, November 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for Bump Day qualifying as we lock in our 33 cars for the main event on November 15th. Don't forget as well, we have full coverage of the Open Wheels Veterans 100 and the Pit Stop competition for a first time this year. Veterans 100 kicks off with full coverage of the qualifications on November 13th. That will be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, before the day before the 500. Both the Open Wheels Veterans 100 and the Open Wheels Pit Stop competition will take place right after the final practice session for the big race. That will be live at, I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on November 14th. Before November 15th, the big race, 500 miles of racing presented by Mitchell Transmissions. That's going to be live at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. That's going to wrap up then our final hour of coverage of pole day qualifications for the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race with qualifications presented by Pit Lane Party. Thank you for joining me, Arjuna Kankipati, alongside a whole host of the IndyCar iRacing community as we walked you through the final hour of coverage on pole day. Join us again tomorrow for bump day. We look forward to seeing you. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.